So we got a really cool scene here that I actually do want to talk about. It's a new look actually at the deleted scene from the Once Who Lives finale. And because of Andrew Lincoln's, mentioning of the conversations happening in terms of him returning as Rick Grimes, I do actually want to talk about this a little bit more. And first of all, just break down the image, but also get into, Rick Grimes' look here and what that could mean for his return to The Walking Dead. So yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, I'm seeing this from the Walking Dead universe promos on Twitter. So, yeah, just a really incredible look here at the finale. And so, first of all, I think that, the choice to not use this, I kind of find interesting. Like, I really do feel like it was really, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how this would have made sense for the finale. Like, would this have been afterwards? I guess so, right? Like, it was most likely, what we got at the very end of The Ones Who Live, and then this was afterwards. Like, after they reunited, everyone was so happy, this and that, and then I guess right after we see them, I guess really happy here. There might not be like any dialogue at all, honestly. Like, the way this scene might have been filmed was just them, I guess literally just in a field here, I guess obviously having a picnic here. And I feel like because they're actually literally in a field that maybe it was just a little bit too much, right? Like, I'm trying to picture how this scene would have played out if you actually saw them in a field and they reunited and then all of a sudden it cuts to them in a field again. Like, it might have been just a little off, So I feel like if they were in Alexandria or the Commonwealth, or just, like if they did something like that anyways, I think that would have worked really well for the story and just actually making a commitment to, certain things like that, I guess, with the characters. Because I do feel like the way that Gimple tells stories anyways is that it's really hard for him to make decisions on characters, like really big decisions that sort of change the characters a lot. Like, I'm honestly really surprised that Rick Grimes lost his hand in The Ones Who Live, because like that is something that is going to change the character forever. Like, whenever he's literally on screen at all, he's always going to have a prosthetic now. Like, that's just going to be a thing with the character. And so, I know that a lot of people feel, certain ways about that with the character, but I will say the comics, I think for the character, it was really cool. Like, it didn't really necessarily affect the character too much. Like, there were certain things, but honestly, like the prosthetic that he has, it helped a lot in terms of, having to kill walkers or just like anything like that. Like, it actually really helped him quite a bit. And so, when you're looking at this shot right here from the deleted scene, obviously you're seeing that prosthetic from, the comic. And so to me, I think it works so well with the character. It's so cool to see. It's actually kind of sad that we don't have this actually just like a confirmed thing, I guess, for the character, because obviously this is a deleted scene, so it's not a part of The Walking Dead yet, right? Like, from what we saw, he just didn't have his hand, and that was pretty much it. And so, in the new series, they can go in a totally different direction here. But I think having that comic book storyline or Easter egg or reference or whatever would be really awesome and really important for the character. It's something that, like, if you're a true Walking Dead fan, you've read like the comics and all of that, and like, everything with the character, you're going to appreciate stuff like that. It's going to be really rewarding, I think, for those that, have been watching The Walking Dead for so long and like know the characters, like have been reading the comics and, everything like that. I think to see the character have a storyline like that or just look that way anyways, I think would be really, really cool. I'm a big fan of it anyways. I think that, if he had a different prosthetic on, I think that's fine. Like, obviously in The Ones Who Live, he had like a different hand or whatever. I think that honestly, it really just depends on the situation there. I really feel like, what he had in The Ones Who Live, it was basically just like a hand, right? And so like that made a lot of sense. I guess for just like, if you had to hold a weapon or anything like that, like it just kind of worked. But I don't know. I really do like this look overall, and I hope they go with that, when Rick does actually come back. Now, I will say, what else I'm seeing here is it looks like he has some type of vest on. And so I don't know if it's a leather vest. I think that'd be really cool just because it's kind of a nod to Daryl, right? But yeah, just a really cool look overall here, I think, for the character. I really do wonder what Rick Grimes' next look is going to be, because I do feel like if he actually, has the longer hair and the beard, like, I think it makes a lot of sense. But I do wonder if, because it's a new series, if they're like, let's change this up a little bit, right? So Andrew Lincoln shaves or like, cuts his hair, differently, because, like, I'm wondering if they're looking at the character and they're thinking, well, he's been back home for a while now, and things are a little bit more happy and whatever. So I'm wondering if they change his look a little bit here. And, they could totally do that. I think that, it would be cool to do, I think, for the first season, especially if there's going to be like multiple seasons, because then maybe he can just like grow his beard and his hair back out again, right? And we can get some really cool scenes later on in like season 2, 3 or whatever. But yeah, I think just, having the character back is going to be awesome. And so let's actually talk about, where I think they could go next with the story here. I think based off of this like deleted scene here, or the new look that we're getting at the deleted scene here, is that, I think that obviously they're going to be very happy for a while. I think that that's the one thing that a lot of fans that, really like the Once He Lives ending. And again, I really do like the ending for the characters. Like, I like the fact that they all reunited. I think, the scene could have been extended a lot more. There could have been a lot more specifics given instead of reuniting in a field. They could have went back to Alexandria or the Commonwealth or just something else. There could have been a lot more there. I really do think that, again, like that's why 6 episodes, even 8 episodes doesn't necessarily work. 8 episodes is better, but it doesn't necessarily work for a whole story with all these really big characters there, right? Because everything does feel very rushed. And so I think, for the next part of the story here, to actually have Rick just back in Alexandria and being happy and just focusing on, his family, I think that that's the thing that would make a lot of people happy that really like the finale. Like, really just focusing on the fact that he's been happy for the last couple of years. And I don't know what they're going to do, with, I guess, The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon and the timeline there, especially with Dead City, right? Like, I do feel like there will be something just different about that because the timeline there is so different. How is a lot of that going to make sense? I think they somehow have to work all of it out there. And yeah, I'm just really curious as to how all that's going to play out. I really do feel like having, some of the characters reunite with the timeline. Like, that's the one thing that I do find really interesting, because Scott Gimple did say something really recently where, he was asked about Dead City's timeline, like being so far into the future or whatever. And he said something about like, like the timeline doesn't necessarily, like, it's not what you think kind of thing. Like, I just wonder if it's going to be one of those things where somehow it just works out in terms of the timeline. Like the next series, they're just going to kind of ignore that Dead City was so far set into the future and then just have all the characters reunite. Like, I could just see them doing that because they've done a lot of things like that, right? Like with Carl, obviously he got so much older on the show, like over 8 years, right? And on the show's timeline, it was 2 years. And so, like, it's kind of hard to believe, but that's just, that's just kind of the way that they told the story there. And so I think that that's something that they could do here. And so maybe it makes sense for all of them to reunite. But I do think that the next part of the story here is just Rick Grimes is going to be happy with his family and, I guess reconnecting with his daughter, Judith, reconnecting, or not even reconnecting, but just, connecting in general with RJ and just knowing a lot more about him. And, I guess just having that father-son relationship there and just, something there. And so it'll be cool to see that. I think having an episode with those two as well would be really cool. I'm trying to think of just other little things there. Like, I also think it's important for Rick and Judith to have a really, good storyline there, because I think that it's hard to connect both of the characters. It was really cool to see, Kaylee Fleming as Judith in the finale, because Andrew Lincoln never had a scene with her before that, right? Because when he left the show, she took over afterwards at the very end. And so it was a, 6-year time jump. And so it was totally different. And to actually have them there, I think was really cool in the finale. But I think, obviously, like, explore that a little bit more and just make those connections there. Like, does Shane come up? Does Lori come up? There's a lot of little things like that that I think would be really cool. Just a lot of cool Easter eggs to the past. And like, Judith is getting older, right? She's going to ask those questions of like, well, who was my mom, right? And he'll have to get into that. And then like, will Shane ever come up? I don't know if Rick would ever bring Shane up ever. I feel like he's just like, no, like, I'm your dad. Like, that's all that matters. That's literally it. Like, that's it. And so, I think a lot of stuff like that would be really cool, because she is getting older now where she will ask those questions. And what's Rick going to do? Just lie? So I think she will wonder more about her mom and more about Carl as well. Just what Carl was really like as a kid, right? And just like little things like that. Like, she probably wants to connect everything together so that she knows more of, what her, I guess, history or her backstory was like, so yeah, I think that it would be kind of cool for her to know a lot of that, because she'll want to know, like, what was life like beforehand? Like, before the apocalypse, what was our house like? just everything like that, because I do feel like that's something that she'll just never really know. Like, where did we live? What was your job? Like, what did you do? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of little things like that where maybe she knows what, he did beforehand because Michonne could have told her, but there's scenes like that I think would be really amazing to see. Stuff like that is what make, shows really amazing. And I just think it would work so well, especially because it's just, talking about a lot of stuff that Rick Grimes has done. And also we've seen a lot of that, right? Like, we've been watching since season 1. So it's almost like us explaining it to like the next generation of like, his past in that sense, right? So it's a lot of fun to actually watch. Yeah, I'm just really excited to actually see, any sort of update here. Like, are we going to get The Ones Who Live season 2? Is it going to be a new series? Like, what exactly is going to happen here? I do think that, there could be there's likely going to be some mentions about it at Comic-Con on Friday. So that's 3 days away. I'm really interested in seeing, if there's an announcement made. I just don't know if there's going to be an announcement at all. Like, I feel like, I think there's a possibility for sure, because again, like, I do think in terms of having to work out a deal or anything like that, nothing has to really be official. But if they know that obviously Rick is going to return, like, they could literally just work that out, right? Like with Andrew Lincoln, and be like, yes, Rick is returning. But they'll work out all the other details, because when, Andrew Lincoln first signed on to do 3 movies, obviously a lot of that changed, right? And so that changed into a TV show and everything. And so there was a lot of like rewriting this and changing this and that. So there was a lot of changes with the overall story. But I think if there's a good idea, I think if Andrew Lincoln's like, yes, I'll come back and everything, I think that they could literally just announce it, right? Like, if he's pretty confident that like, yeah, I do want to do this here, they could announce that this Friday, because they've been talking for the last couple of weeks, right? So we'll have to wait and see how a lot of that plays out, I guess. I think it would be really cool. Definitely. I think it would be obviously something that would really be so exciting for everyone. And obviously, if Rick Grimes has the comic book version of himself here, and this is his new look here for the show, it would just be incredible. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.